Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. I'm Josh.
And I am Nick.
And this is the same Nick, Jesse's younger brother, participant on our show since season 8. You've seen him in works about graphic novels. He was on Death Note with Dan, and he was on our House of Leaves discussion, so it's great to have you back, Nick.
It's good to be back. Glad I'm getting back into reading, and I enjoy it. I got a whole stack that I need to crack into. So.
And it helps that you live right by a library.
Yeah.
But Nick is also going to be here for the next 3 episodes, so if you enjoy Nick, you should be excited times 3. We're going to be going over a book that I've wanted to go over since season 8, and that is A Horse Walks Into a Bar by David Grossman. This is a Booker International Prize winner, and it is very interestingly arranged. And the discussion starter that I have for this is, A Horse Walks Into a Bar follows Israeli stand-up comedian Dov Greenstein, also known as Dovala G, as he tells his story to his audience, in addition to some jokes. The story takes place throughout Dov's routine, and any mention of previous events are either referred to by Dov or by the book's speaker, District Court Justice Avishai Lazar, who is in attendance. Do you feel that there is significance to having Justice Lazar tell the story, keeping in mind his role in Dov's life and what he became?
I mean, as of most stand-up comedians, they do tell their life story and then throw in some jokes involved with it as well. But hearing it from, I guess, a friend and legal, it was a legal standpoint, it was a lot more interesting hearing that, especially for the time period that it was written. Like, some of the jokes that he was making was very risque, I guess you can say. I mean, I was a pretty decent fan of the book. It took me a while to actually get into it, but I believe that it definitely was an interesting aspect to see from a audience and a friend standpoint, other than the comedian standpoint.
Yeah, I think a lot of the story is told from what he has to say during the stand-up routine, which could be told by quotes or how he refers to him as he. I wish that there was a bit more of Justice Lazar's standpoint, where even if they alternated chapters where it was, you talk about the stand-up routine and then you talk about Lazar incorporating what his life experiences with him. Though I think that the fact that it's told from beginning to end as part of the entire stand-up routine, I think that's what makes it unique and original. However, I think that they tried to inch out the interactions that Lazar had with Dov, and it just, I think if there was a little bit more of a balance, I think that it would have, I think that's an improvement I would have suggested.
Yeah, definitely.
But, I mean,
at first, it did explain, how they were connected, but later on, it was just he's just an audience member. It wasn't really, a relationship in there, but it was definitely, like I said, a good standpoint to hear from an audience perspective.
I mean, he does make mention of the fact that, because, I mean, he's hoping that Dov doesn't make mention to him because they went to the same camp together, that he had that major life-changing experience, and how Justice Lazar, when he was younger, he didn't prove to be an upstander. He just faded into the background while the others bullied him and then ultimately took him away, which I think is very interesting that he he becomes this legal perspective that has to examine and evaluate situations where he now does have the ability to act upon it and make an impactful judgment where he didn't have that back then. But I think that he was hoping that he wasn't brought up, and thankfully for his sake he wasn't. Dove let him off the hook because part of his routine was he would randomly go after members of the audience and roast them. To me, I didn't think he was. I think as far as his content was concerned, he wasn't really funny. The way that he wasn't like Don Rickles or anybody from the Dean Martin celebrity roasts. To me, he was more like Jeff Ross, if that caliber.
Yeah, it was more crude than funny.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
but for the time, like I said, for the time period it was written, there was definitely some interesting jokes involved.
Did it say when? I know it was released in 2014. The setting could. I know his mother.
I meant more the setting wise.
I know his mother was in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
His father dodged the Holocaust. They moved to Israel. I thought it was set during the. I thought it was a more current.
I was reading it as an aspect of like fresh out of the Holocaust type thing. That's how I read it, but I could be mistaken.
I don't think it was right after because.
Yeah, I don't think
it was because that would have meant that he was, if his mother he himself wasn't in the Holocaust, but his mother was, so he wouldn't have been born yet.
Yeah, true.
But the one thing I didn't do any further research on this, but the comedy and stand-up comedy in Israel, it was very. I mean, this seemed to be very reflective of American comedy.
Yeah.
However, as far as, but I mean, it wouldn't. There were moments where I was laughing. I think that on page 113, he told the joke about the old man, the one that the old man who he found this wonderful 30-year-old woman, and they had sex all the time, but he was still upset.
Yeah.
That was the funniest. That's the one joke that really stuck out to me.
Yeah, I was actually like listening to it as an audiobook, and there were moments where like I would laugh and crack up, and people around me are like looking at me like, "What are you doing?" But like it was definitely a good listen. It was a good listen or read.
The more that people get back into audiobooks, I think the more people are going to really start to understand.
Yeah.
So, people are on their phones all the time, so it looks like you're talking to them, and they're the ones that look awkward.
Yeah.
So.
But I think I probably would have liked it a little bit more if I actually read it.
Mm-hmm.
More comprehensive, because I was in the middle of doing stuff while I was listening to it, so I probably missed a lot of it, but I believe I got the gist of it.
Yeah, I read it. I brought it to the three most recent Silent Book Club meetings that I attended, and it was a bit. It wasn't as engaging as I would have liked it to have been, and it was a bit more dense in its content. Mm-hmm. However, I think that it still made me think, because to me it was it's the comedian as this is a comedian using their art and their talent as an outlet. Very much he was like a Pagliacci figure, where he put on this comedic front where he was hoping to make people laugh, but deep down he was the makeup was coming off and he was starting to break down as a human. But as it progressed, it felt more, because usually even even for him in moments he was able to contain himself and create a joke out of traumatic experiences, even those such as his mother being in the Holocaust. But then it got to a point where it just became very much like therapy rather
Yeah.
than.
I do remember at one section in the book it did mention that it's like they were saying, oh, this seems more like a therapy session than a comedy show.
And people were walking out
Yep.
because it wasn't funny anymore. I mean, it's tragic and it's very unfortunate. That's if if there are instances where people aren't finding something humorous, they'll express their disapproval. They'll just get up and walk out, or
Heckling.
There's that. But what did you make of the conclusion as far as him being led to his mother's funeral from the camp?
To be honest, I completely forgot about that part.
It seemed a bit. The events as the events themselves are very saddening, but it didn't feel like it was. I didn't
Genuine, I guess you could say.
but I didn't feel like it was. I didn't really feel that sense of. It just didn't leap out to feeling that sadness with him.
Yeah.
And how his dad. It pretty much the way he reacted to his. Because he was supposed to be there to console his dad, and they share a moment together, but instead he gets up and walks out on his hands, because he used to do that when he was being bullied.
Mm-hmm.
And the response he gave is that because they wouldn't be able to punch him in the face, that instead, they'd have to go down in order to do so. And not all that, because you can take your foot and kick him in the head.
If you do think about it, like they do say, like most comedians have that, like they hide behind their humor.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at it at that perspective, like if he's walking out on his hands, like maybe he was upset.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he was like really feeling it, and that's just how he reacted. But it didn't really like portray that that much.
Yeah, I think that's I think when you're looking at it, when you're looking at the material itself, it becomes very thought-provoking.
Yeah.
But as far as it's laid out itself, it could have been done better, because you begin to think, that just happened? And you just have to, and then you get assurance to make sure that yes, it did.
Yeah.
But his dad, relations with his dad were never the same, and his father lived a halfway decent life. His son would take basic care of him, but nothing to the point. It was just nothing genuine or extraordinary above and beyond. It was just genuine, and then or just basic. He married, didn't have success there, but it was interesting the way that it ended, where it was the one woman, and then it was Justice Lazar, and how Justice Lazar was nice enough to stay. He offered him the ride home, but let him close out the show like a traditional comedian would, or a stereotypically traditional comedian would. Alrighty. Was there anything else you wanted to say or add?
Kind of like most comedians as well. Like some people are into it, some people aren't. Going into it as the idea of like, oh, this is like a stand-up comedy in a book.
Mm-hmm.
I went into it with high hopes, and honestly, I wasn't that impressed.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that I was. I felt that I had a great sense of enthusiasm approaching this, because it was a Booker International Prize-winning book, and I thought I was curious to see what approach Grossman was going to take, because he's been very well established. But I think that his story was. I think that he had great elements to his story, but I think that the delivery and the direction.
Yeah, the delivery was a little off.
Yeah, it didn't seem I think his execution was not, as a comedian, his execution wasn't funny, and I think that then the same has to be said with the way that the writing depicted that.
Yes.
But how would you rate it? 0 to 5 stars, half stars permitted?
I would give it a 3.5.
That's exactly what I gave it.
Yeah, it was like you said, it was definitely a good storyline, but the way it was written needed some work.
Yeah, that's exactly where I had put it, because it did make me think, but I think it made me think in a way that it could have been better.
Yeah,
and there's a lot that I would have suggested, but I think that with the suggestions, it could have been better.
Yeah.
So,
Agreed.
if you are interested in checking out Horse Walks Into a Bar, here is my copy. It is hardcover, because I'd wanted to get quite a few Booker International Prize winning books from that particular year, so I have some of the other competitors. I think that was when Judas by Amos Oz was a nominee as well. But there is some of his other books include Falling Out of Time and To the End of the Land. And he's also written some nonfiction on topics such as one is Writing in the Dark, which is essays on literature and politics. So he's a pretty well-established author. I want to thank you for tuning into this video, and be sure to join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading.